Welcome, everybody. Today we've got an interview with Mike, Irene, and Tracy. It covers Irene's court case, health practitioner tribunal's case, for she declined to take the bioweapon. And here we made the public headlines: the fiery scenes as midwife who refused the bioweapon COVID vaccine actually convicted and discharged without any fines. And Irene left a lovely message: we'll see you all at the military tribunals. There was panic in the courts for Hayley Botha, Meredith Connell, and the judges. There was no first-hand evidence. Everything was on hearsay. And of course, lawyers learn how to moot. And of course, they only have to make stories up, and judges will work to believe it. And let's not forget, it cost $53,000 of taxpayers' money, which was spent on lawyers Meredith Connell charade, plus costs of a 5-day trial for 5 investigation forms given to pregnant women before they fired Irene. And after the courts acted in bad faith, the Attorney Office of Inland's Air Water Council noticed the Judicial Complaints Office and the courts. So the courts were noticed that the judges and courts were corrupt. And of course, the registrars in the courts said, "Thank you for reporting this. We have no jurisdiction to answer your notice. Here's a link to the Judicial Complaints Commissioner." So off we went and we sent the complaint to the Judicial Complaints Office, which of course had a 75% increase in unanswered complaints. And his response, a fiduciary, a public servant, said they can do as they deem fit. They can allow perjury and forgery in the courts. And he suggested, in his own words, get a lawyer and take them to court. Ha, ha, ha. So out of meeting 5 judges, a 5-day trial, a health practitioners disciplinary tribunal, who all failed to follow due process, led me to writing a beautiful book. Shame on them. The Coercion, Lies, Kidnapping and the Just ICE System. So you will discover the untold truths of the COVID-19 era. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Consumer Code of Rights was blatantly ignored by politicians, corporations and health authorities. Those who stood up by their ethics faced severe repercussions. This book delves into the personal and societal turmoil that ensued, revealing real-life experiences of systemic failures and personal loss. How would you react if your life's work was suddenly taken away? Journey through a tale of betrayal, loss, and injustice, where government's overreach and professional isolation are laid bare. This gripping narrative exposes the lies and corruption within governmental, legal, and medical institutions, and it highlights the spiritual resilience needed to overcome such adversity. The book is a must-read, and now we'll follow on with the wonderful interview with Mike, Tracy, and Irene.
So we are here. I'm here with my very good friend Irene Jane Kalinowski, and many of the people on campus then will know Irene. She's quite famous. Last year she was doing, we had her on counselling quite a bit, various court cases, and there were some videos, some articles. She's had an amazing life, but we are going to focus mainly on the book that Irene has written. It is all of 698 pages, and it is free to download as a PDF. So we'll give you a few juicy tidbits from that book, and I hope people then will download it and want to read it. Now, Irene, I started reading at the beginning, and I was a bit daunted by the 696 pages. And but yesterday I dived into the bit that we're going to focus on today, and the court case, and it reads fantastically. It's really entertaining. It's got a lot of humour, and it keeps on chopping and changing between court transcript and what Irene says, and then getting the fraud squad involved, and all of this. It's a very good read. So we'll try and give you a bit of a taster about this book. Now, Irene, you were 42 years of experience as midwife. We want to dive into what happened at the North Shore Court, but can you give us just a very quick sort of Wikipedia version of your life, of up till the first 65 years or so?
Okay, well, I was born in Rotherham, Yorkshire, England, and I did my midwifery training in the UK. I travelled to the Middle East, spent 7.5 years, went back to the UK, back to the Middle East, and came to New Zealand in 1995 because they really wanted my experience. And I practiced as an independent midwife for 20 odd years, and in 2015 I saw how cruel the system was with our health professionals. I was suicidal. I recovered. I did a bit of investigation.
Maybe just say a little bit about that. Why were they prosecuting you?
Well, it was a complaint where a woman went against my advice and ate the KFC, and there was a hidden problem there, and it was 3 years of interrogation, and it was non-stop digging. It's defamation, it's humiliating, it shatters confidence. So I went to counselling, not to get counsel myself, but to ask how many midwives and health professionals are affected by this complaint system. And the counsellor said, how many of them feel suicidal and depressed? And I'm told most of them.
Yeah.
And that really, really shook me to pieces.
Yeah.
So having been through it myself and been at rock bottom with all the experience and knowledge I have, and the celebrated births, 98% normal birth, I've never lost a mother or a baby in my entire career, it can knock you off the planet, but then it's the costing, it's the toing and froing with the legal aspects. It's the lawyers, the lying, the failure of the natural process, the due process. There's no natural justice in it because they can do as they deem fit. So, and a colleague of mine took her own life previously to that, and you'll see with a link in the book, recently in the UK there were 16 nurses and midwives that have committed suicide.
16.
16.
Yeah.
Because
and one that we know of in
process.
New Zealand, but there could be more?
There could be more, we just don't know. I do know that a lot of midwives are antidepressants, and I don't know of many because I've tried to help them that have lost their careers.
Yeah,
You've got good midwives that have not been supported.
So this is the Midwifery Council that you would think would be supporting midwives.
That's right, it's the Midwifery Council, but it's also the Health Practitioners Disciplinary Tribunal, and they also have the Practitioners Competency Committee, Conduct Committee as they call it.
So although this was a terrible thing for you to go through, it was a bit of a rehearsal, gave you the strength to meet it again in the last few years.
Yeah, it did.
Or
At that time I didn't realise
since
it
the
would come
mandates,
again,
yeah.
because I went to China where I was reducing C-section rates from 65% to 9% in a holistic way. I've written textbooks and curriculums, and anticipatory care and things like that. So when I came back, I just came back because of COVID. COVID broke out in China, and I knew it wasn't right. You can read about it in the book. I'm not going to go through all of that now. But the journey's in there. When we was in lockdown, when we was out on the boats happy sailing, you guys in New Zealand were having PCR testing in lockdown. Again, I'm not going to cover that.
Remember it well.
We remember it well. So what happened is I came back into the system just looking after 3 postnatal women, probably 3 postnatal women a week, sometimes 4, because I'm nearly at retirement, but I could see how the midwives, the huge shortage was. So one of the midwives was actually being attacked by the system. Yes, she did do a couple of things wrong, but it was nothing to do with midwifery wrong, and it could have been rectified very easily, and it was. It was, the Ministry of Health, but it was the system that broke her to pieces, extorted money from her, and stopped her practicing, and an entire community lost a really good midwife. And there are so many of them now, just walking away. And we're dealing with nurses and nurses from other countries coming in, and they know nothing.
And they're still mandated, aren't they?
They're still mandated. Well, they can go back in now if they stand up to the system, but they're still trying to mandate them taking other vaccinations. And the other thing is that if they do a return to practice. So if you're coming back into practice and you've been out for 3, I think it was 5 years, yeah, they help those midwives and nurses come back, but the mandated ones, it's not 5 years. So they can't get in because they haven't got the money, because it's expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, for me to come back in, I gave all my equipment away in China. I didn't think I was coming back. And, to buy that new equipment, it's thousands and thousands of dollars, plus the prerequisite courses you have to do. So I spent a lot of money coming in to help the system, and once we were mandated, then I lost all that, plus the continuing costs.
So you came back, that was 2021?
It was 2020. I came back in August 2020.
So you worked for a while until the mandates?
From January 21.
Yeah.
I just did that little bit of locum, and then it was May 2021 that I actually got a access agreement to the hospitals to help the midwives. And so it was only like May, June, July, August, September, October, November, 6 months that my whole career lasted after coming back, which was a huge shock. And it affected my health. It was coming back from COVID, the health, the stresses, the attacks. It was really, 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 stressful and really a firing line for something you hadn't done.
Yeah, and the court case that we're about to talk about, it's good to just remember that it was to do with that they were saying that nurses who did not have the bioweapon, the so-called vaccination, were a danger to their clients. And they're still saying that. It's now 2025, and we've had so much evidence to the contrary. And I remember sitting in the court and just thinking all the time, this is so ridiculous. It's these people that are charging Irene who should be on trial, but it was Irene who was on trial, the one who was really trying to be a good midwife.
Well, it was just that I gave 5 post-dated forms out to women before I was mandated, and the women, one of them they're very intelligent and they could really self-care, so I'd taken the whole history and signed a form and worked out on the calculator as to when our date was due, and of course the personal history that she might go post-dates if she can't get anyone. So I just put my signature and a date as to a time when I thought they were due, and also one without a date in case there was an emergency, because the midwife, they were complaining they couldn't get care. And I'm talking about these forms were for 2 not vaccinated women.
Because it was a terrible time.
Well,
People
it was
were
also,
seeing
I mean,
people in cars, weren't
women
they?
were having pregnancy check on cars. Midwives were dumping weighing scales on doorsteps of new mothers, saying, well, just weigh your baby and that's your check. You know, there was lots of family violence. I mean, I went round, I put it a priority, so I did go and see them before, you know, during the lockdowns and things. But, you know, attacked by your own health professionals in an own clinic. We were in a small clinic and the pregnant woman came in with a mask, and it was a hot summer's day and the clinic windows were sealed in case of theft, so they couldn't breathe. So I said, you take your mask off. And then I was attacked by midwifery colleagues for posing danger. And then it was like, I was reported because I helped a nice, beautiful Indian lady, her name is Bhumi. And she, beautiful, couldn't get family over because of the flights. They were alone, she was petrified, and the baby was due, I think, about 3-4 weeks after the mandates. So I says, well, Bhumi, you can walk around my garden in early labour and I'll help you out. The hospital failed to give her a check. She turned up at my house.
So you weren't seeing her professionally, you were walking in the garden and like talking to a friend?
Well, like talking to a friend, yeah, but I mean, I did a visual assessment on her and I wrote down that she might be 9 centimetres because I know I don't need to stick fingers up women's vaginas when they're in labour because you know. So, it's not so much that, it was like, I'd resigned on the 5th of December and they said they were
Okay, let's start at the beginning. You were mandated, all the health professionals
were
mandated on the, what date?
On the 15th of November 2021.
Okay.
Okay. But what started before that was in October when they sent us notification of the mandates. I questioned them.
No, they don't like that.
So I responded paragraph by paragraph about the breaches of human rights, the breach of my code of ethics. What's going to happen? You're already short of midwives, you're going to lose a lot of midwives. How will these women get good care? What research are you using for these statements? Please send them to me.
Did you ever get an answer to that?
No, and please give me what you call to be misinformation, so the midwives won't find themselves in front of a tribunal, and they didn't answer to that. So after that date, they did start to, I felt the attacks coming, because I sent it to Jacinda Ardern.
You painted a bit of a target on you.
I sent it to Jacinda Ardern, and I sent it to Ashley Bloomfield. I sent it to the College of Midwives. I sent it to the Midwifery Council.
Hipkins?
And it went to Hipkins. It went to Parliament, and not one response.
Well,
so, but I've highlighted
so
that. That is all in the book. So if you want to know more about that, that's there.
And then let's go into this court case, because I was there. And really it was a very big eye. I remember the first day just being, the first few hours just being a bit bored and thinking, what's this got to do with it? And then they started, everything was based on assumptions. It was an extraordinary state of affairs. I could see they didn't have any evidence. So this was a real eye-opener for me. You could just sense that they were out to get Irene, but they didn't have the evidence to do it.
It's an interesting term you're using there, Mike.
Just introduce yourself, Tracy.
Yeah, this is Tracy. She's in Wellington.
She's in Wellington.
All right, you use the term evidence, right? Evidence is a descriptive word. So their story wasn't fact-based.
No.
It was just evidence. There was no fact behind, so no substantive.
It was a lot of assumptions. They had 5 forms that Irene had filled out. Now she'd filled them out before she had resigned.
For 2.
And for 2 people, yeah. And you do this, it's normal practice. And they just assumed that Irene was practicing when she had resigned and when she was not doing anything at all, other than this walk in the garden. But
Look at
this,
the incompetency
there was no evidence, and to me, I have this naive belief that you're innocent until proven guilty, and that was not the way it was, and that was very clear from the first few hours of the case.
I knew the moment I was helping that midwife, because I was, by the manager at that hospital, was questioned and attacked for being not lawful by helping her, and we had got lawful because we'd gone through the legal advice to put this together. So that was one thing. So I knew that when I allowed Bumi to walk around my garden, it was going to escalate. I already had a vision that this was going to come, but I didn't realise how ridiculous and how bad it was going to get.
Yeah, they were really out to get you.
So I think Tracy saw what I went through, but I think Tracy walking beside me was huge, because I think had I done it all alone, I don't know if I would have been strong enough, really.
And
strength, yeah.
Tracy, you've really brought another dimension to this, and the connection with the Land's End Water Council. Can you say something about this?
Well, yes. I realise that the number 1 is the most powerful number 1, because we are one and one together. And with the court case of Irene's, they were vicious people, and I'll describe that, because when I was sitting in court, when the criminal case was going on, Jane Birdseed was actually walking past me and whacking me with her hard-covered
Yeah,
book.
that's right. I was next to that. You called her Birdseed. I always called her Bird's Nest.
Oh, I don't know. And the other one had a funny white hairdo. And that woman, the other woman, we've got global scientists. The Inland Sea Water Council has serious records, and we have serious qualified people. And we've proven, and the scientists have proven in Australia's Senate and the High Court there, it was our scientists behind that. The issue here now is you've got a woman that, the other one with Janie, I call her, she has said, I recommend the vaccine. She's not a professional or qualified to even make that statement. So then you had the...
Okay, so she was the woman who complained. Irene, have you ever had...
No, she's not the one that complained. The one that complained got name suppression after...
Oh, right. Okay, Birdseed complained.
Birdseed filed a case. Birdseed filed a case.
But wasn't she acting on somebody who made a complaint?
Yes, she was.
Farmer Jones.
Oh, that one. Okay. Have you ever had a complaint from in 42 years of your experience? Have you ever had a complaint from one of your clients?
I've had I think three, maybe 4 in 42 years, but they weren't, none of them was my fault. They were untoward incidents.
And they were resolved.
Minor, a wound
I
not
qualified
healing.
that because we looked into that.
Not
So
healing.
we actually provided the fact that we did check that out and it was correct.
Yeah.
And even Midwifery Council hid the number of complaints, because in 2015, when I took them through the employment law, they said I got 4 complaints. Well, I only knew of 3. And they never produced any minutes of meetings, and they never produced that 4th complaint.
Yeah.
So Jane Birdseed complained.
She filed the case.
Filed it.
She was the investigator.
Yeah.
The investigator gave her the right to go in and out of the courtroom and talk to the witnesses. And that's and they do that with the police as well.
Well, I observed that they had we called him the fixer. This guy, we still don't know who he was. I tried to engage him in conversation. I said, who are you? And he said, who are you? And I said, well, I'm a supporter of Irene. And he said, I'm not a supporter of Irene. And then he complained about me that I was intimidating him. But we saw him coaching a witness later. We'll probably get to that. They were sitting in a little back room, and you're never supposed to talk to a witness. But he was...
They also went and every time they saw a midwife, because there were midwives going in and watching what was going on, we couldn't call witnesses because Jane Birdseed had intimidated every one of them.
Yeah.
So what we did was the midwives would come in, and I had to I spoke to the head registrar of the court, and she said, yes, we know. I said, this is what's happening, and she said, yes, we know. The lawyers were going in and making claims that we had witnesses in the gallery, and I said, there is no witnesses being called. Oh, that's what this is, because this is the tactics they were using. I'd also brought up to the court that I'd been assaulted by Jane Birdseed.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with a system, and I think people don't realise who the Crown is. So I'm going to expose the Crown to you today. The Crown are members of the Law Society through the large law firm. And that large law firm is connected to every law firm in the world. The Crown are the lawyers. There's nothing else. There's no rabbit holes here. It's just a joke on us. And these lawyers are all connected to the system that they created, which were courts, and everyone's filling out and following legal forms. And unfortunately, Irene had started her court case with legal forms and legal format with several sovereign people, which didn't help because they weren't in the background at the end of it. They disappeared.
That was the High Court case.
That was another court case. But
well, the reason we did the High Court case, I did it because Midwifery Council was not answering any of my questions, and they were not willing to meet with me in the private after 3 notices to cure. So the only way I could get them to give answers was to take them. I took them to High Court, and then they sent 485 pages of documents, which has basically hung themselves, and excerpts of those affidavits are actually in the book, which made good reading, because they said they were too busy for my resignation on the 5th of December, and Dr. Calvert was the CEO and registrar, and yet on the 22nd, when Farmer Jones put the complaint through, they spent the whole day on the 22nd trying to find evidence, trying to look at websites that I didn't even know existed. They failed to investigate, and they spent a whole day colluding, yet they couldn't remove my registration.
But the thing is, with all this, the joke is, if I was a licensed practitioner, I wouldn't be writing out any forms for blood tests or scans or x-rays unless I was at the scanning place at the time of the scan or whatever required, because all you did was fill out a form so they could, and it's a standard thing. And the joke here is you could have written out that form as a,
As the practitioner, the number, the registration number.
Yeah, homeopath, right? You could have done that then. I know people were doing the same thing under that, and you're recorded there. So they didn't do their homework. But what they did do was, because in 2015, 2014, this woman had been bullying you, and they were bullying you because you made it blatantly obvious that they were hiring narcissists and I'll use the word stupid, not very well educated people to be midwives.
Did you say Marxists or narcissists?
Narcissists.
Okay.
They have no
probably Marxists
you'll
too.
You'll find the nursing situation and the midwife situation now, most of these midwives, and I've got a lot of respect for a lot of women, but when you're told that something is safe, or we're just going to give you remdesivir, or we're just going to do this, we're just going to do that, without actually consciously thinking, these people can't speak English properly. That's what they've done. New Zealand healthcare is no healthcare, and the word health doesn't mean you're going to be well at all. Yeah. It means money generating for them.
Yeah.
Boy, it sounds so much like wealth. There's a W and a H. The only difference is
never thought of that.
No, so and then they've got a whole, everything is written in a way that, you don't realise. And no one's actually realised any legal form you fill out, you're in their world, and only a lawyer can commit fraud, and they tell you that. So Irene's case was interesting at the end. And the reason it was interesting at the end is the lawyer was put in a real deep hole. And then the judge, and she knew, because we contracted her in the beginning, that Irene wasn't guilty. She found her guilty, but she wasn't guilty because it was voluntary. The judge deemed the vaccine to be voluntary. And out of Irene's case, that's the most significant thing. It was voluntary. And she realised when she was saying that, oh, Irene's done nothing wrong.
Well, since when has giving 5 forms been a danger and caused incompetency?
Yeah, well, we did also point out, because she mentioned there's a lot of people in the gallery, which is very important, and it was pointed out to her straight away, this is the public inquiry. Also,
can we just mention that bit about counterspin? At a certain point, I think it was when Susan Calvert was testifying, the judge said now nobody in the gallery should be taking notes.
Yeah.
I think she realised that something was going to come from this. And I said,
we don't take notes, we live stream.
I said, we didn't tell them that. I said, I'm a journalist. I'm with Counterspin Media. And they looked it up in Wikipedia and decided that it was a far-right conspiracy organisation. And I wasn't allowed to take notes. So that was a little setback. I had to rely on my memory. But then I watched very closely.
Oh, always listen to the recordings, right? The issue there is because we have voice media, and we are actually accredited media as well. The issue with that is they are very, very conscious of the fact that we're not stupid anymore. And that's the, I can't say anymore. It's like, you've got to deal with these people with confidence.
Yeah. And
you've got to tell them who they are and exactly who you are.
Well,
and you don't need to say who you are. You say it in your voice and how you talk to these people. And you do it polite, but with strength.
Yeah, partly we're doing this also for midwives and other people in similar positions, helping them to stand up to this system. So that'll come out a bit later. I think let us just stick to this court case a little bit, because there's a lot of good details of that, and then we'll broaden it out. So Irene, you did quite a good job of cross-examining this Susan Calvert, the CEO of the Midwifery Council. You actually, you were being a lawyer then. Could you, you got her to admit a few things. Could you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, it seems that she doesn't even know her own job or her own processes, because when I recited their own act, she couldn't, reconnect with it, because they had, they had private meetings with Farmer Joe and suspended me on a lie, so I got them to admit that I just said, you had secret meetings with Farmer Joe and suspended me on a lie, and she shouted yes.
And the gallery, we really did make a big noise at that moment. The judge told us to shut up.
And the judge should have halted, and she should have halted everything at that time, because if the suspension was a lie and fake, then nothing else was real.
Everything was hinging upon that.
Yeah. And the other bit was with Kaz Jane, because she had worked...
Okay, so Kaz Jane is the expert that they brought in.
That's right. Well, Kaz Jane...
With a swish haircut.
And that little bit on her head.
Yeah, and she was knitting with great big needles when she wasn't testifying. And one of us complained about that, because they said that was a lethal weapon.
Oh, it was hilarious, wasn't it? So, she doesn't know what anticipatory care is. And so that's preventing holistic care. And when I took the history and gave out the forms, that's what my care is: holistic, spiritual, anticipatory care, taking a good history and anticipating what comes on professional knowledge and experience.
So you were teaching that to midwives, weren't you? Do you think that was a reason why they've targeted you? Because you were trying to...
I've written books on it. I've written 5 textbooks on it, and I lecture overseas on it, and she had no idea. And she claimed that the midwives were all there was no shortage of midwives and everything was perfect on the ground level, which was a lie.
Yeah.
And she said she'd worked on the ground level. Well, actually, she was overseeing IT systems. So her basic input on the ground level was not boots on the ground. Yeah. And the other thing is that the whole audience was shocked, wasn't they? Because she said it was the professional responsibility, it was a responsibility of the health professionals to take the bioweapon, and that she advocates it for all pregnant women. Mm. But that never showed up in the court transcripts.
Ah, right.
So we know the transcripts were edited, and you'll get all that story because I've shown the evidence in the book, which is a great read.
Yeah, and the prosecution's witness for being the expert, not knowing what anticipatory medicine was, that was quite a moment. Why didn't you say a moment? Just say something about what that is.
Well, anticipatory care is planning ahead. It's taking a whole history. It's knowing, it's knowing the anatomy and physiology. It's, with years of experience, you can assess and predict just about what may happen to this woman.
And through that, you get less need for caesareans.
That's right. That's why my normal birth rate was about 98%.
98% natural.
Normal birth without
and
interventions.
And what's under the regular?
Well, under this system it's about 60% normal and 40% C-sections and interventions.
So you see why they go after Irene, because she's a better midwife.
I wrote the books. I wrote with Woman with Midwife with Me, which actually went over, dare I say, totalitarianism and overregulation. And from the day I wrote that book, I was bullied in hospitals.
Yeah.
So the other thing is the lab test. Remember, the lab test couldn't state when the forms were created or given to women. So how could they find me guilty on that? And they also didn't check any validity of the practitioner or the signature. They failed in their processes, and the Ministry of Health never notified them that I wasn't working, and nobody questioned the woman. So, a dead practitioner can apparently write forms, which is absolutely systemic, absolute incompetence and systemic failure.
And then they brought in a witness to show that you had actually been active in this time when you were, after you had resigned, and that you had gone into a pharmacy. Do you want to tell us the story about that?
I'll talk about they created forms, like the practitioner order forms, and they created them and forged my signature. And I think the best one to talk about this is Tracy. You fill us in on this.
Okay. I first saw the document and I said, "This isn't your signature, Irene." We contacted the police because you need to contact a forgery, and the police decided, well, clearly we were wrong, and decided not to carry on any further. There was a 105 on which we will carry that further in the next couple of days, because we've had some success on another contact level with these entities known as the police. So that's what happened. We did a very thorough investigation on an overseas team. We did a forensic intervention on it and proved that we have to look like now, that it was Jane Birdseed's.
And in the judge's report and the judicial conduct commissioner wrote back and said, "How dare we go overseas and get a forensic report? How dare we do that?"
Yeah, but it didn't say it wasn't lying. It didn't say it wasn't wrong. So all these little things are just recorded, and what we've done is because we've got way too many cases to we may as well just handle it all in one hit, because midwives, nurses, doctors have actually been deceived and forced. A lot of doctors had to pay student loans, so they were forced to do what they did. But then a lot of doctors took a lot of money to do what they did. So the whole system is run by lawyers ticking boxes. That's all it is.
And I can confirm that because Jane Birdseed and the other one, Vicky Blake, the enforcement officers, went on leave. And guess who answered the phones? Philip Knipe, a lawyer. So why would a lawyer be there to answer the phones from
That's his second job. He's got
companies?
student loans to pay for.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you are fined, where does that money go?
Well, we don't know because we've asked for forensic audits on the Health Practitioners Tribunal and the court, and we don't know where the money goes. They've not given us any invoices as to who paid for the courtrooms. We know the Health Practitioners Tribunal haven't done any statistics, and they don't provide any accounting. So we don't know.
They actually, the complaints are so big. And I'm going to tell you something really funny. New Zealand is a waste management company and a complaints management company. So you need to create the complaints to manage the complaints, right? Think about it.
The
That's what's
lawyers'
going on.
fees.
It's all money laundering.
And the saddest thing for these health professionals as well is that they're having to pay $650 an hour to $900 an hour to defend themselves. And they've got indemnity insurance, but the lawyer from the College of Midwives is actually in the College of Midwives who signs and extends the supervision, which puts more costs on these health professionals. So, so most of the time it's insurance fraud, definitely. And these health professionals, their lives are ruined.
Yeah, I was present.
Well, they're not ruined. They've allowed that to happen. I'm sorry. You've got to realise that it was all voluntary. So we're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah, but people don't have that knowledge. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, to educate people. I just wanted to say I was present at a trial. Sue Gray was the defence lawyer, and she put up a very good case on behalf of this midwife. But then when the midwife was actually examined by the prosecutor, it was terrible. It was really terrible. These ghastly questions, and the midwife was very much on the back foot, and they'd stop for a little bit while she cried, and then they'd go into it again. And this is the most terrible thing to see.
Well, I nearly walked out
Well, we
twice,
were
didn't
so
I?
right.
3 times.
He was the lawyer, right?
Well, she just she allowed this to happen.
You've got to think about that, because there's been a few cases that she's done. You've gone, oh, what are you doing? So if you were being bullied, that's why you have a lawyer, so you're not bullied on the stand.
She was very definitely bullied. Yeah.
And that shouldn't have happened. And it's just a matter of realising that, you're looking in, you've got to look inwards, not outwards.
Yeah. So if there's any other midwives or nurses in this situation, they can get in touch with Irene and Tracy.
Get in touch with Inland Water Council.
Become a member.
Become a member. Non-residentsettler.org.
We're putting everything's in a Inland Water Council holds the office for the trustee and the office for the private attorney's office for private trust non-disclosure agreement, and that's where it lies. And the attorney is the only disclosing entity in this, and it's the attorney that deals directly with these legal entities, no one else, because you can't. No one can talk directly to these people.
And it's happened to a lot of the midwives who are self-employed, and the health practitioners self-employed, because they can't use any unions to reclaim or anything like that, so they're completely alone. And the numbers we get, the more of them that come forward, we can help if we have mass numbers. Right, we need the mass to fix the problem.
And it's time, I think, this is a time to really go on advance. Starting to see all over the world now that guilty people are starting to be found out, and they've got away with it for so long. So this is just a little part of things that are happening all over the world. Tracy, has the fraud squad been informed of that signature falsification and those other forgeries?
We're not notifying the fraud squad. That's a legal service. We have another form that we
Okay,
Yeah,
well then,
we did notify them before. I put the police complaint before.
and what happened then?
Just did one.
They
Just
ignored
agreed
it.
with what the judge. She didn't even read what was written properly. That the report was from overseas, and how dare we question the judge?
Yeah, they did a real analysis of the signatures. It was very professional.
They did.
Yeah.
So the book's available, and it's free, but we're requesting a little donation from people so we can actually take these people on, and they need to be removed from office because they're causing harm to our people.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we need to work together at that, and then Tracy, just give us a quick 5 minutes of why we need support in Wellington.
Okay, so Wellington is a case against MWLAS, and MWLAS is going through a process which we're realising that it's all controlled by lawyers. Anyone that is a ratepayer or has issues with tickets or any form of a charging order done through the company which is DMC, which is Debt Management Central. Their address actually is in Untold and it's controlled somewhere else. The issue here is we need more information because of what we're doing. And I can't tell you what we're doing because I can't deem that to be advertising. But if you have an issue with a council, any council at all actually, because most of them are connected to MWLAS at the moment, and we will put it into our records. We've already got a substantial records at the moment of people's property wanting to be restored. And the people that are in New Zealand are the creditor. They always were the creditor. And the councillors and the councils are the ones that hold the fiduciary duties and the rights. And they are the debtor. Now, there's a video on our YouTube channel and on our website, which is a 5-minute website video on the rights being read to Jerry Brownlee and Todd McRae. And they accept the fact that they are personally accountable for their decisions. Now, if you don't understand what that means, think about it. If I make a decision over you, well, I'm accountable for what I tell you to do. So the only rights that I have is, if you're standing on my toe, kindly get off it. The dominion that we have is we can say no.
So we want as many people as possible at the Wellington court.
Yeah, 13th. It's very important. If you have an issue with the councils in your area, especially Wellington, Manor, Wanganui, Palmerston North area, there's buses going down there for that day.
13th of February, which court?
Palmerston North to Wellington. Sorry?
Which court in Wellington?
High Court, Wellington.
Okay.
And the more people, the better I'm going to use, because last time we had over 50 people in the gallery, and the judge realised that that was a private, public inquiry. Mm-hmm. And trying to stop what we're doing. We are the only ones proactively doing the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
There's none of this other stuff that you hear in the background. It's very frustrating, but we need to, look within yourself. If you have an issue with a council, look into the Inland Sea Water Council, non-resident-settler.org, and just the information's there. We have meetings on Tuesday. And we are very serious on what we're doing. And we're very disappointed with the New Zealand justice system at the moment.
Okay, and then we'll just finish the last. We've only got a few minutes left, so we'll talk about the Practitioners Tribunal.
Okay.
Mike
you need to say something about?
That was the online.
Yeah, well, Mike was in there, so.
Well, where were you?
Well,
you're supposed to be there.
I was in the accident and emergency department having tubes into my bladder and
you don't have to go into all the details.
The stress levels
It was the stress level.
Lost my hair.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what happened was...
So they just said they were going to do it anyway.
Yeah. They continued without me being there. Mike was there for the
I
day.
just had an online link. First of all, they made that very difficult, didn't they?
And they
Because we wanted that to be a public thing as well. And
well, I sent it global. It went to World Doctors Alliance, and they declined 200 AVL links, and apparently only 4 of you got them. And then they were told that if they shared the links, there'd be a $10,000 fine.
yeah, that's right.
So how does that make that a public inquiry, right? So they've gone on.
Yeah. So I was there watching, but I didn't see much because first of all they had one witness who I couldn't even see why she was there. It was all waffle, and everything else was, what do they call it? Sub rosa. In the back chambers, they would just put up a notice saying the court will resume in 15 minutes, and then there was another notice, the court will resume in another 15 minutes, and there was virtually none of this in this.
So they didn't get to hear what was said in the quiet, in the private rooms. That was wasn't it? And
these were the same people that had been in this
in the criminal court.
In the criminal court, so she's getting double jeopardy here.
And it's the same Ministry of Health that took me to the criminal court, and it's the same Ministry of Health that puts the tribunal people on their rolls, and the same one that puts the panel of midwifery council into their roles in their practice conduct. So the Ministry of Health have been taking me on a double jeopardy trip at the expense, and the public's paid for the courts. I did an OIA request, $55,000. That's just for the lawyers, let alone the judges and whoever else was in, and the cost of 5 days.
And all the time
and the
of
witnesses.
people like Susan Calvert, who are supposed to be doing proper work, and she's spending all her time prosecuting Irene.
For 5 forms.
I think they don't like Irene.
No. So
I'm definitely getting that impression.
I've put a personal grievance into the Midwifery Council and the Health Practitioners Tribunal. The Health Practitioners Disciplinary Tribunal said, oh, we don't do those. So I says, hang on a minute. So we wrote back and said, well, that's a lie, because according to your ombudsman, you're only the ones we can put a complaint into, nowhere else. So they've refused. Well, they still haven't answered.
No, they're very busy with complaints.
And the Midwifery Council have not answered either.
So this is a whole situation that really has to change. And this is the Midwifery Council, but I have the feeling, the same things are going on
teachers,
in the medical
doctors,
council. Yeah, the teachers.
If you're a professional...
This is part of this total revolution that we've got to make. It's not just changing the politicians, it's going right through.
And they're all separate corporations, because the Midwifery Council's a corporation, the Tribunal's a corporation, the Ministry of Health's a corporation. So they're all corporations dealing with corporations, and nobody's taking accountability. They just keep passing the buck.
Yeah.
And that is what needs to stop. So the donations, if I do get donations and people have put some through, is to take these people on through the employment court, and
that's costing you
will do that.
out of your pocket, isn't it? You said something about $800.
It's $800 just to file it, isn't it, Tracy?
Just to file the thing.
Okay, so the case that we're doing at the moment has cost us over $56,000.
Well, where is that money coming from, Tracy?
It's from personal and other donations, and we've found a few very nice people that have given us.
Okay. Well, if there are other very nice people listening to this, you can have this amazing book of 698 pages for free, or you can make a $10 donation, or you can make a $5,000 donation. That's totally up to you.
It's education. It's got all the links you need. It's got links to the videos from the court case. It's got links to the COVID, because you've got the journey through it. All the truths are in there. It's all factual, and it's It's very educational. And if any of you are going through the courts and things like that, you learn so much from it. And especially taking on these systems and realising the harms they've done to us.
Yeah.
I've even gone as far as looking at their acts and statutes, as well as the maritime law and military law, okay, to show where they're wrong on all of it. They've violated all of them.
I really liked Irene's last words when the case had closed and everyone was going out, and she said, "See you at the military tribunals." So we hope.
We hope.
Irene's a great one for believing in the military tribunals, and I'm the one that tells you that the military are the ones, the admirals and the colonels, and that own the database companies that are collecting data at the moment. The solution is within us all.
Yeah.
And the moment we start realising that, we don't need to look out, we just look within. And the moment I started doing that, we now have one as one. So we're all one. And that's the most powerful thing we have. And this is all we need to be. And for the love of ourselves, this legal entity, which is a bunch of lawyers, the Crown, have no power anymore.
Yeah.
Okay?
It's up to us to be, I think if anything, I've grown in strength, I've grown in self, I've grown spiritually through this. I've had great faith through all of this. I'm not the same as I was 4 years ago, because I used to be all very nice, very polite, very all those things, but spiritually strong, and you realise the power is within. And when you can look these people in the eye and show that you have no fear, you actually win.
And not only that, Irene talked to me a while ago about the ideas she has for the training of midwives in the future. Things that are blocked at the moment, but if things can really change, you've got incredible ideas, and you're there with all that experience, and you're going to give that at some point.
I've got
because
the
you're so strong.
textbooks that are completed an integrated model. I took out what was wrong in the midwifery training, and I put what should be in it, like the placenta can regenerate, went back to books from 1845, the physiology, the true physiology, and all the natural healing elements as well, plus the new curriculum, plus a plan in the costing for within Landsdale Water Council. We did this, and it's there for people and communities. It's all done. It just needs building on to suit each community, and we've done that for our peoples.
So it's really a great future that we've got once we're past this particular time here. So maybe Tracy, just some final words, and then Irene, final words to finish.
We are doing everything within our power. We're working very hard, and we have incredible people within our council. And we welcome anyone. We're recording everything. So if you've got an issue, you want to record it. So if you've got any issues with council, again, bring it in, and we will record it and we'll use it. Not your names or your information, just what we have, so we can get a restore from these thieves. That's all I can say.
And Irene, last words.
I just want to say a huge thank you to all of you, to Counterspin, to Landsdale Water Council, even as far as the Doctors Alliance, for this public inquiry has gone global. The book's already reached China, Brazil, India, the Middle East.
Has it been translated?
No,
Not
but
yet.
it's been, it
But
will
going
be,
out
I
internationally.
think. I
Yeah,
think this is, the book is New Zealand history.
Yeah.
It's all fact, it's factual. Nobody can contend it because it's in their words, it's in their court transcripts, it's in their documents. You know, they have actually shown the crimes they've committed in their own words.
Yeah. And Irene wrote a flyer for the book, and she mentioned counterspin, but she called it counter sin. And then I thought, that should be our second name. That is what we're doing, isn't it?
Yeah,
we're trying to
the same way.
we're trying to show up the evils that are being done, but it's because we have in our sights this future that we are going to.
Yeah, so I just want to send you all blessings and stay strong and remove negativity from anything. Don't bring negativity into your lives.
Don't fight among ourselves.
Yes, we've got to unite. We are united. We are one. And when we come together, we are very powerful. And show this in the courtroom. When we came together, all of us from across New Zealand into the courtroom, it made a huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you.